Welcome back to the Business of Becoming. I'm your host, Stephanie. So, welcome back. I'm back in my chair. I'm finally home, and we're finally back in our studio. Today's episode is actually one that I've been wanting to record for a while. I just, I've waited because I felt like there was a lot of other things that I could have talked about, and this was just, I don't know, it felt right. I felt like something I wanted to talk about. So, this is things I wish I knew before I turned 30. And a lot of you are like, you're just 31. You're still basically like in the beginning of your 30s. Even though I am in the beginning of my 30s, there's still so many things that I wish I knew in my 20s. And this is not about it being a regret. It's not about, I wish I didn't do this or not. I mean, there might be a few things I wish I regretted. But at the end of the day, none of what I've been through in my life would have led me to here. This podcast wouldn't even be up if I didn't go through what I had to go through. So the reason why I wanted to share this episode, it's because if I would have known a few things of what I know now, it would have helped me not avoid, situations in life because life happens, but it would have definitely helped me process it better, and it would have helped me overcome them faster. It would have not allowed me to avoid pain or avoid trials and tribulations. It would have definitely just helped me process those things much better. And I'm excited to kind of share with you guys. I'm going to break it down in three phases. So things that I would have wanted to know in my lifestyle as just a person, things that I would have wanted to know in my 20s that I know now as a business owner and someone who leads people on a day-to-day basis, and things I would have wanted to know that would have prepared me better as a mom. And yeah, let's get into it. I'm excited. So in my 20s, what I thought was success, right? What I thought was the pinnacle of you made it was, becoming a wife, being a mom, and having a successful business. And I achieved all of that before I turned 30. And that moment that I had all of it, I still was going through so much, and so much of the process that I was trying to figure out in life. Like, I had gotten there, but I didn't feel like I was enjoying being there. I was still going through so much, and I was so young. I still am, right? But this whole podcast today is basically just talking to you guys about things that would have helped me understand the purpose as to why I wanted to get there rather than just getting there. And many of us find ourselves, in our early 20s, just wanting to get there so fast, like, trying to skip steps just to already become successful, or already to become a wife, and already to become, a mom. And sometimes it's better to just take a second, reflect, and find out who you are first. Find out what is important to you before you become important to somebody else. Because you don't want anybody filling a gap or filling a void in your life that you shouldn't have them fill. That should be you. Many people get into relationships really early on because they're trying to fill something in them, or they feel like that's what they're supposed to do at this age, right? And I mean, how many of you guys, your parents or your grandparents are always like, ¿Cuándo vas a tener niño? Like, when are you going to have kids? And you just started dating that person like a month ago. Like, that's the culture that we live in. You're with somebody, okay, when are you going to get married? You're with somebody and you get married, and then when are you going to have kids? Like, everything is always trying to be sped up. And sometimes we lose sight of fixing inward instead of just trying to project everything outward and just getting there already. In my 20s, man, I thought saying yes made me the most dependable person. I thought saying yes was gonna, like, made me that person for everyone. And I realized now in my 30s, after going through everything I've been through, it just depletes you. Saying yes to everybody, not putting up certain boundaries and walls, not to keep people out, but to just protect you. It's kind of hard for me to say this because I don't feel like I was so much of it, but now looking back at so much of my youth, I realized how much I wanted to please people. And it wasn't because I was only a people pleaser. It's just because I wanted other people to, like, accept me. I wanted to be a part of something. I wanted to, like, love and be loved. And that necessarily didn't have to just be in relationships. It was in professional situations. Like, I wanted to be the person that made it happen. I wanted to be the person that found a solution. And as a young person growing up like this, I thought that everything was transactional. And that was a really bad way of learning and living, because I had put so much false expectations on people, and that led to so much offense that I took years to have to learn to either forgive people, or years to learn how to forgive myself for putting an expectation on somebody that they didn't even know that they had. And that's something that so many of us deal with, that we're not even aware of, is that we put so much false expectations on family members, on friends, on, people that we do life with, because I'm the type of person that I wear my heart on my sleeve. And if you're a friend of mine and I consider you a friend, like, you call me at whatever time it is and I want to drop everything and be there. And I realized that now, as a 30-year-old, that that's not the way everybody is. And it's okay to, like, have people tell you no. People have lives and people get busy. But when I was young, I was like, wow, I did all of that for this person and for these, friends or these people or family members. And they didn't do that in return. And it created such a resentment towards people. And it made me almost kind of like close off to friendships and close off to, having relationships, because I was always like, well, that's messed up. They should have been there, but whatever, I'll let it go. But I never really did, if I'm being honest with you. It's not that I have grudges, but I had put false expectations on people, and I really wish I didn't, and I really wish that anybody who's listening to me now, like, don't put false expectations on friends or relationships or even people in your family, because that will lead to resentment if they don't fulfill that in the way that you think that they should. The last thing you want to do is go through life being someone who's offended. Nobody wants to have someone that is constantly offended and that's constantly complaining on why people are not being there for them. Like, no one wants that. You're not going to create a good circle of influence around you if all you are is offended. And not to say that I was offended like my entire youth, but definitely very pivotal moments in my life I can remember that, because I didn't have the courage probably to tell somebody these are the expectations that I had for you, and give them the opportunity to have like their say of like, okay, well, I can't fulfill that part, but I can do this. And being able to have that symbiotic relationship and me understanding, like, it caused me to like not depend on anyone. And it was a me. And it became like a survival part. And that is not healthy, especially as a 20-year-old. You need people in your 20s. 20s is about building. 20s is about working hard. It's about building community. It's about building friends that are going to carry you through your 30s, right? So if you're listening and you're in your 20s or you're in your 30s, I am, these are all things we need to constantly remind ourselves, because we are here to live alongside people. We're here to work with people. We're here to interact and have community with people. It's part of life. I have kids now, and I want them to have other friends. I want them to learn to rely and to share and have experiences with people, that it's not just us. Like, no, these are things that I want to teach them. And in doing so, obviously, I learned very late in my 20s how important that was for me. One thing I remember so much, I played basketball all my youth. And one thing I remember one of my coaches told me was, you got to be teachable, Steph. And I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean? Like, I am teachable. And I didn't understand it until much later, when I was trying to, like, play a certain way, or like, this was my shot. This is the way I felt comfortable doing a layup. And I didn't understand it until I started seeing those around me get better. And I was like, how come I'm not getting better? And I went, I did 2-a-days, and I had the coach, coach me separately. And I realized how important it was to not know everything and not do everything that just feels comfortable, and just to be taught and learn. And this helped me, not even just in my personal life, but even as a leader, like finding people who have teachable spirits and don't know it all. You don't. I'm 31, and I still don't know it all. And I don't want to know it all, because then what's the point of life, right? Being teachable, if I would have learned, and I learned it a little bit earlier, but if I would have learned that in different seasons and different parts of my life, it would have allowed me to not hit certain walls like at full force. Again, this is not about regret. This is just about, you're not going to avoid situations in life happening to you. You're not going to avoid pain. You're not going to avoid, grief and loss and things that just naturally happen in life. But you can learn how to process them. You can learn how to say, oh man, like now I understand what I'm dealing with, what's going on in my life, and be able to process it better so that you can go through it trying to find some joy, trying to find some peace. It's not meant to always be grieving and to always be like, why is this happening to me? This sucks. Because you're going to have those moments and it's okay. You can cry about it for like a day. The next day, find out, okay, this sucks. How are we going to make this better, right? How am I going to learn from this? That's being teachable. How am I going to learn from this situation in my life? What is God trying to teach me in this very moment? What am I looking for? Like, where's the lesson? Because that's all life is. It's just lessons. I used to think that stability came from roles or titles and established things like that. And honestly, stability comes from what you're rooted in. So if you're not rooted into anything, and that's something that I learned later in life, like a leaf in the wind, where you're just kind of going to go here and go there when life throws things at you. And you got to be rooted. You have to know, like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I living in this earth? Like, what is my purpose? And start striving to work and get there. And Frankie's just laughing at me because he's probably asking himself that question. So one of the things I'm going to say really quickly before I wrap this part up is, this is funny. Even though I had false expectations for people, right? And that like affected me being able to really cultivate those relationships because I was offended because they didn't know that I was offended or that I expected something from them. I completely shut off. And then now I had no expectations in like my mid-20s. I had no expectations for people. I did not care if they were going to be there or they weren't. I was still just going to be me. And I was just going to be, if I wanted to be there for them, like if I wanted to keep my version of, I wear my heart on my sleeve, I was going to do that. But that wasn't healthy either because I went from one extreme to the complete opposite where I was like, well, I'm going to be me and, I'm just not going to expect anything from anybody. Wow. That was just not healthy because now, and I'm telling you in recent days, I have some friends and they were, trying to buy me a gift and all these things. And I was like, stop, like, this is weird. And I didn't know how to accept love. I didn't know how to accept people just appreciating me. And that's how important I'm trying to stress to you that if you have some false expectations for somebody or friendships or whatever, like always talk about it with them because you don't want to be like me where now I just freak out if someone's like super nice to me. I'm like, what do they want? Like, this is not normal. And sometimes it is true. Like people do obviously want something from you. But there are good people out there that just genuinely love you and care for who you are. And I'm learning that now. I'm becoming this version of myself that's really okay with being accepted for who I am and being able to receive and accept love and give love back in friendships or relationships, whatever it is. And I think it's such a healthy point to really highlight that you don't want to be the person that's always offended, but you don't also want to be the person who is like, I don't want to receive any kind of love or I don't really trust anybody because that's really the root that it comes down to is you just don't trust that people's intentions are genuine. And that's not healthy. So get yourself to therapy. Break down those walls. Keep boundaries, but break down some walls. Now, when it comes to leadership and business, there's a lot that I wish I knew, that I know now, that I wish I knew when I was starting in my 20s. Was that just because you're the boss or you're the leader doesn't mean that you have to fix every single facet of someone's life or be the solution to every single thing that that person needs. No, not at all. I thought that I had to be like everyone's superhero and that I had to solve every problem for them and that, it was so tiring. So much of my 20s like was spent just like trying to lift people up, trying to lift people up. And I love that. Don't get me wrong. I don't regret it. But I realized that I limited my growth and theirs because I was not even allowing them to think. I wasn't even allowing them to strategize for a solution. Like they would come to me for a problem and I was like, don't worry about it. I got it. I got it. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I thought at that moment that I was being a great leader, that I was solving the problem, that I was being la jefa, the one that everybody was going to for the answers. And that was not good. Like, there's a moment in time and a place that, yes, things should be finalized by you, but you got to give your team some room for them to struggle a bit, for them to be critical thinkers. Like, they got to learn how to want to solve a problem. They got to want to solve a problem. And if all they do is know that you're going to give them an answer, they're not going to want to solve it. They're just going to want to go to you. And that's not healthy for you, neither for them at all. You cannot build a strong culture if you don't give people the chance to stretch, to struggle, to try and critical think. You are not giving them, you're not creating a healthy culture, because all the culture is, it's just going to be you solving everything. And that's not going to work out. That's not going to last, because the moment that you burn out, everybody's going to be like, what am I going to do with my life? Why am I here? What's going on? Struggle creates ownership. It creates a sense of like, when I'm struggling, and I'm telling you because I was an employee once too, right? And when I struggled with a question or I struggled with trying to find a solution, before I even went to my boss at that time, I would try to find out a way that I can come to them with a solution rather than just a problem. Now I would go to them with my thoughts and I'd say, hey, this is going on with this client. I think we can do this. What's your plan? What do you think? You good? You approve or no? And I realized that I didn't give my team, and this is partly on me, I didn't give my team the chance to do that so much. I wanted to know what the problems were right away because I wanted to answer. And that wasn't good. That wasn't healthy. You got to give a chance for you to step back and allow them to take ownership of that problem and try to create a solution so that eventually they can become leaders in your company. I'm telling you, dear, it cost me so much time and so much money keeping people here that I was answering all these problems for them and I was limiting them from being, or I wasn't even allowing myself to see if they can really truly be leaders here in this company, because I was just like, oh, let me just do it. I'll get there. I'll get it faster. I'll make it happen. And that's not good, because it's going to cost you a lot of money in the end. It cost me not just financially, it cost me emotionally, it cost me physically, having to show up to so many appointments with my team. And it's not because I didn't want to be there for them. I did. It was just that I didn't give them enough room to feel confident in the beginning that they can do this on their own. It would have saved me a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of just emotional weight that I carried, because I wanted to make everybody feel good and feel productive. And honestly, that's not our role as leaders. We're meant to teach people, we're meant to coach them, but we're not meant to carry them the entire time. At that point, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're doing them a disservice. So this next part is things I wish I knew before I was 30 that would have helped me be a mom. So I became a mom at 27. I got pregnant at 26 and had my daughter 10 days after I turned 27. And I just remember that was everything to me. I said in one of my earlier episodes that when I was young, in kindergarten, they asked, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And everybody was like, a doctor, this, a firefighter, whatever. And I was like, I just want to be a mom. But I really did. That was like the biggest moment in my life, right? And man, my kids are everything to me. But when I wasn't a wife anymore, I felt like everything was starting to fall apart, that I couldn't be a good mom, that I couldn't be a good leader, that I couldn't be a good person, like, because everything was just starting to just fall on top of me. And not to be down and depressed, right? But you got to shift your mentality of when tragic things happen to you to not fall apart, but fall into grace. And my biggest thing that I want to say about motherhood is this: I wish I would have learned earlier to give myself grace. To give myself grace for the different seasons that I was going to go through in life. To give myself grace not to be the person that had to be taken so serious. I walked around my entire 20s, like my entire 20s, I was so serious. I had my funny moments and all these other things, but because I was, a business leader, and because I got married super young, and because I was, I had kids super young, I felt like everything in life was so serious, and I had to be serious, and I had to take this role on, and I didn't give myself grace to be a 20-year-old, and not take life so serious, to actually enjoy that I was young and that I was funny. I didn't get a chance to do that as much as I wanted to. And I'm not regretful for those things. I really am not. It got me to where I'm at. It got me to this chair. It got me to open up to you guys. And I just want to be able to encourage everyone who's listening to me, like, don't take everything so serious. There's a time and a place for all of that, but there's also so much grace you need to give yourself while you're growing. I look at 20-year-olds now and I'm like, dude, you guys are babies. Like, I have little cousins that are 20, 21, and I'm just like, enjoy it. Don't take it so serious. Like, things will pan out the way God intends it to be, as long as you are doing things the right way. You don't have to be mysterious. And that was just my life. My whole 20s, I was super serious, and very few people got to catch me in moments where I was just jolly. And I want to encourage people that, like, as a mom, dude, you got to be silly, because I can't walk around with my 4-year-old and be super serious. She's taught me how to give myself grace. She's taught me how to be silly. My son taught me, oh my God, that number one, that I'm the funniest person in the world, apparently, because I make them laugh so hard. And it's taught me to learn and live with, like, oh, everything will work itself out in your favor as long as you're just content and you take back for a second and realize you're not in control of every single situation of your life, and you got to lean into joy even though things suck sometimes. You got to lean into kindness and give yourself grace, man. Another thing about grace and being giving yourself grace is that rebuilding is okay, and rebuilding can be scary, but rebuilding is fine and it's healthy, because as long as you're rebuilding to become a better version of yourself, your kids will appreciate it. Your kids will value it. Not now, or I don't know, for sure not now, my kids, but definitely when they're older. Give yourself that grace to rebuild, because you deserve it. And they deserve to see a version of you that is happy, that is kind, that is genuine, and that loves the life they live, even if, they got thrown a bunch of things that they couldn't control. It's okay to rebuild when things happen that you would have never thought would happen to you. Give yourself grace. Grace is the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. So you tell me, Steph, how the heck did I give myself grace? It's the bridge between who you currently are right now to who you want to become. So I want to become the mom that is there for every single little thing in my kid's life. I know that I can't be there for everything. So that is that grace, that there's going to be moments that I miss, but when I'm there, I'm all in there. That is my all-in moment. My attention, my everything is given to those kids, because I am intentional with those moments. And I wish I would have learned that, to give myself grace early on in my life, because I was always rushing to please other people and make things happen for everyone else. And I didn't give myself grace to say, hey, you know what? This is who I am and this is who I want to be, but I don't need to get there tomorrow. I can't. I'm going to burn out. I'm going to give up, or I'm going to hate it by the time I get there. So if you're a mom, give yourself some grace. If you're a parent, give yourself some grace. You deserve it. And your kids want that healthy version of you. Your kids want the becoming part of you. They want that version of who you are and who you want to be. Because in that version of where you're at in that middle, that grace period, is where you get to mess up, you get to have fun, you get to laugh, you get to cry, and you get to have all these raw emotions that you can genuinely just be a true version of yourself. Because again, as cheesy as this is going to sound, it is not about the destination. It is always, always, always about the journey. Key highlights that I want to point out is become rooted, because if not, everything in your 20s or anything in your life right now is just going to feel like you're just rushing to get there. And if you're rooted on your purpose and your plan, it's not going to feel rushed. It's just going to feel like you're making steps every single day to get there. The next theme I would want to say is become whole in yourself, inward, before you become needed for anybody else. And that's the journey that I'm on right now. I am doing a lot of therapy. I'm doing a lot of things to just become whole right now before I become, anyone else in a relationship next, or even as I'm trying to, be a mom at the same time, I'm still becoming whole so that I can give them what they need as their mom. If you're in the becoming season of your life where you're redefining or you're just trying to figure out what the blueprint of your life looks like, all I can say is that you're not behind. Even if you're in your 30s, you're not behind, because I'm in my 30s and I'm repurposing my life. I'm redoing the blueprint all over again for my life, because what I thought I was working so hard to get to changed from one moment to another. It completely changed for my life. And you're not behind. Like, you're starting again, and it's refreshing, and it's like a clean slate, and it's something so beautiful that we get this canvas to just paint the picture of what now we want our lives to look like. So I know that it might look like I lost some things, and it definitely felt like that for a good part of this year. But I feel like this has just made room for who I'm becoming now and the blueprint of the life that I want to live now. So I encourage you guys to like and subscribe again. Put in the comments things that you wish you knew when you were 20. Maybe you guys are, in your 30s and your 40s. I'd love to see it. We're all teachable here, so we all want to learn, including myself. So I'll see you guys in the next episode. Don't miss out.